Good morning, everyone. My name is Juan David Granada, and I'm gonna talk you about a financial crisis. What is the impact on suicidality rates? According to the article, financial crisis are a reality that affects mental health, direct socio-economic consequences like material disadvantage and inequalities, social fragmentation, unemployment, debt and worsened standards of living, as well as a collateral consequence such as poor educational standards can lead to poor mental health. There is direct evidence from previous global financial crisis as well as the present one, linking these consequences uh, to a psychopathology, notably depression and suicide. The effects extend beyond personal and society morbidity to systemic consequences that can affect mental health service delivery and policy. Ramifications are longitudinal and transgenerational, and therefore it is worth considering their management from preventive viewpoint. It is clear that mental health professionals need to make sense of the impact of financial crisis on mental health and they find appropriate evidence-based responses to the challenges. This would be useful not only for already affected countries, but also for another countries at risk of suffering contagion effect. In this piece, we offer an evidence-based account of this topical issue and make response suggestions based on the experience gained from Greece as an example of a country severely affected by a financial crisis. Socioeconomic decline can influence people's mental health through loss of jobs and limitations in incomes, unemployment, impoverishment, and family disruptions are likely to produce or precipitate a variety of mental health problems, most prominently depression, suicide, and alcoholism, and increasing the number of uh, helpline phone calls with direct or indirect reference to the economic crisis has been reported in Greece. Most colleagues had depressive symptoms and very predominantly unemployed. An increase in suicide attempts and arguably actual suicides has recently been reported in Greece as well as in other countries imposing austerity measures such as Ireland and England. This evidence confirms earlier reports linking the financial downturn with increased suicide rates in European countries. Unemployment is very strongly associated with suicide, with I think, 1% rise in suicide at age younger than 65 years old. Unemployment may also be associated with increased homicide rates, which almost doubled in Greece between 2007 and 2009. Financial difficulties are associated with mental health problems, including suicide, even though debt per se is not necessary to precipitate mental illness. The more debt people has, have, sorry, the the more likely they are to suffer from mental disorders. While higher income may even be protective against suicide, also worth considering is that different types of financial problems tend to affect different population groups. For instance, high housing loan interest rates are associated with a higher incidence of suicide in younger people, but a lower incidence in the older population. The association of psychopathology with poverty has been repeatedly demonstrated in culturally diverse cases and with consistency across the time. Evidence from the Far East and Southeast Asia indicates that several financial losses due to the economic crisis of the 90s in Asia, and especially unemployment resulted in suicide increases. The same holds for China, where the socio-economic reforms of the last 3 decades were accompanied by a rise in suicide. The mass suicides of farmers in India following the agricultural reform of the mid 90s, are in the line with the above. Economic crisis can cause adverse health effects such as an increase in the prevalence of mental disorders and suicide rates. Nevertheless, these effects might uh, vary across countries. While some countries successfully decouple economic crisis from adverse mental health outcomes, in others the suicide rates increase due to the economic crisis. The differential impact of economic crisis and on suicide may depend on some of the policies policies taken to tackle the financial downturn. Some of the mechanisms that underlay the association between suicide and economic crisis are increased unemployment, job insecurity, decreased earnings, personal personal debts, and bankruptcy. Several measures can be taken in order to prevent or decrease the negative effects of the economic downturn on suicide, such as reducing the barriers to accessing healthcare, improving the quality of treatment of mental disorders, with special attention to depression, raising the price per speech, providing support to tackle financial problems, investing in lower market programs, and for last, encouraging social support. Thank you, everyone, and that's all.